Don't judge. That's good stuff. I was going to say we should mention about the videotaping. We videotape these, or Malvern Books does, and they put it on their YouTube. So if you're not okay with that, let us know so we don't put yours on there. But Ricardo, you want to go?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How's everybody's day? Isn't it beautiful out there today? Enjoy it before it becomes 106. I was going to read this last, but after Luna's piece, I'm going to read this one first. It's called A Rose. All the earth shall be filled with joy. Though governments auction prophylactic to black markets, while matchstick baby heads and bellies gaze fly into clotted saucer eyes an atomic sun. And though pearled fat farm children smug in cardiovascular disease, TDs, and Dodges discard silken filaments of flesh trembling, pin-boned, hard-memoried on the slick doorsteps of veneered strangers. And though freethinkers, loudspeakers, prophets, drummers, dreamers are shot and brained on sidewalks, their tongues nailed to walls and prisons, disfigured, starved, beaten, scorched purple with cattle prods, and though lunatics range free, and though tribes are suffocated by cities fall, down numbers lose digit, all fingers point in curved air, royal and blame, and though in cramped hearts of courts liberty, a commodity is traded and bought and sold for those who got caught at the wrong time, at the wrong place, dialing the wrong number on the wrong colored telephone. Though trade winds and air currents blow poison fumes and brown skin sweat, all filled with anarchistic verve, lashes out. Too many voices raised loud, just thunder with no rain. And though poets wearily obsess, incessantly trace quadrants within parameters of barren inner landscapes, there is nothing you can do to deny, control, or prevent it. But eventually, all the earth shall be filled with joy, and the desert shall bloom like a rose. All right, let's see. I'm an old school guy. I go around with notebooks, and I sit in bars and coffee houses, and I write. And sometimes I'll go for like months at a time just writing. I don't even really look at what I'm writing. And I'll put that notebook away. And then a year later I'll come back and say, the notebooks I wrote in March of that year. Well, I just pulled these out this morning. Bear with me, I'm gonna try to. Okay. The clown in me drinks enough to have a red nose throb of disjointed marionette movement, strung out on the need for laughter. In the three rings of my mind, he is dancing in garish, witty, verbal color around the sword swallower, feigning a tickle, receiving a glare. People with swords in their throats have no sense of humor. Distracting the lion tamer to death and catching the trapeze artist with a paper net. Oops! The liar in me would tell you the truth, but he's afraid you'll take it wrong. After so many years of you expecting a story, the truth would bore a hole in our relationship. Sinking the need to be amused, entertained, floated, buoyant, kept up to date on the latest partial bridge to the other side of your biting non-acceptance of you and I resembling each other. Hey, it's just a thought. The transient in me shuffles his feet and contents of his pockets, lots of paper containing nothing and no one. Somewhere in that gate, in these pockets of shaved wood, there's some change. Pennies, quarters, half dollars, made invisible, weightless, impossible to spend, but warming a security of possibilities worth spending if they're unspent. And the gangster in me carries spray paint and chalk outlines in his memory. His blacko weighs him down, makes him walk with a slouch, keeps his ear to the ground for a rumbling that stutters and shudders bias and turf war. having something to defend, a territory of heart worth dying for, or fire 4 or 5 times, in the slow motion of knife slashing, air whistling penetration, the loss of breath and the bruise of bone, the thud warm in the ground, and a hug as if it was from my mother. All right, and 2 short ones. Then I will relinquish. This is called Sacred Pictures. They are kept in a box in the corner of the closet, pictures of Jesus with his heart full of thorns, one for each year since I left home. Pictures stacked in order between white tissue, hand dated on the backs in Mother's perfect scroll. One picture for each Christmas since I quit scooping snow from her sidewalk. Pictures to remind me of her religion, her thinking how I should become the first one, then 2 I displayed on the wall, but her eyes followed me everywhere. So I took the pictures down, placed them in this box, the beginning of a ritual of my own, a collection of my heritage, reminding me of winters colder than I want to remember, reminding me of thorns. Oh, wait. All right, it's another one of those notebooks. You toss it out, crumpled, straight-edged, mangled, the confused emphasis like gravity moves it through the air and down into the clutter surrounding you like a ticker tape parade of words. It's compulsion, knee-bouncing addiction. Fix it, express train derailing. Gotta reach the terminal to release those passengers screaming and pounding on your window to the world. This is all wrong. I've gotta write it down. I've gotta write it down. He's giving up more sad habits than most. He's convinced himself of that. Alcohol never released the imps, just the demons, and the fairy dust just confused the medium until the schizophrenic channeling left the door hanging open from the other side. Creating a draft that he had drawn, a low number at the front of the war, dragged him off his humanity, introverted into blowing smoke rings. At that time, the punk burned bright, inflaming, rekindling spirits and spark of a Roman hedonistic candle exploding on his hand, and into the 6 strings he learned how to tie into knots. Vertical badgering of earth's spinning top made it weave a tattered blank of sweat, redeeming him in the pit of his looming exodus. His face made him steal the forge. They wrapped themselves in sparks, in vain, in vanity, the causeways of roller coasters, adrenaline. They hung precarious on the edge, and in the pass near the ground, she jumped. But his knuckles were white from the blankness of his grip, not the tension of the ride. Later they would walk through the remains of the ride like paleontologists eager to resemble the ancient animal, but finding time unkind to its assemblage. Heart had decayed and longer breathed snug. The past had taught him to appreciate the passing, not the staying. And they passed away, he winced, but thought scars were sexy, and found scarification widespread, and decided to seek its salve. Then after being stepped on 12 times, his drug diluted, he stumbled into the place in line, reticent like a squashed bug looking for the guts to attack the steps that allowed him to need the 12 that had pumped him full of the need to redefine his stride. I wasn't there when his father did not answer and his mother faltered into an embrace. I wasn't there when the big kid didn't fit in and the haircut possessed him. I wasn't there when he let the snake in his veins shedding its skin and clogging his heart. I wasn't there when they swapped faces and had returned for another that was damaged. I was there after the delivery, the overload, the room of nodding heads, wanting to know with condescending smiles. In the sense of full disclosure, I have a chapbook for sale.